On this edition of the program, it is shutdown night. By the time that you listen to this, the government may already be shut down. We talk about the politics of that and the New York City mayoral race with our good pal, Evan Scrimshaw. All that and more. It's all coming up.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics program for October 1st, 2025. Your old pal Justin Robert Young joining you here from Austin, Texas. Busy little afternoon. I'll tell you what, I was all, trying to get stuff. I got to travel later this week, but I was getting stuff done, getting interviews done for you guys for this show, including a really good one that I'll mention at the end of the show. And then Sora 2 happened, and I have spent the bulk of my afternoon making dumb AI meme videos. So, yeah, that happened. But in between video generations, I do have some information on the shutdown that is going to happen. This is inside, but I will share it with you in a second. We have a new entry into the Arizona governor's race. And of course, Evan Scrimshaw coming up in a little bit. We talk about New York City mayoral race, more shutdown stuff, a little bit of New Jersey, whether or not the Ciccarelli surge is real. And then a little football at the end. Just a little football. Just for me. Just because I like to do it. Okay. I want to read this here for you. This comes from a congressional source. I will say it is on the Republican side. So understand that, you're going to get a perspective of somebody. But in general, when I ask them for kind of the lay of the land or the strategy of things, they're usually very clear-headed with me. And I think that this is good insight. This is what they're hearing. John Thune, Senate Majority Leader, told members that Schumer is in a dark place, will not budge. If this is to be avoided, it will come from other members of the Democratic conference. So this backs up what we have said on this show repeatedly, which is that Chuck Schumer can't blink. He can rely on other members of the Democratic Senate to blink for him. But if he blinks, he's probably going to have a challenge for his leadership. And we all know that's the number one most important thing. Currently, the best argument that the Democrats have is that the Republicans are damaging healthcare. However, and this is what the source points out, that if the government or when the government shuts down, you are going to see certain elements of government-run healthcare begin to expire almost at the point of the shutdown, including, this is what I was given, Section 101, which extends community health centers, National Health Service Corps, and teaching health centers that operate graduate medical education programs through November 21st. Section 102, extending the special diabetes program for type 1 diabetes and special diabetes program for Native Americans through November 21st. Section 103, extending certain existing authorities related to national health security and emergency preparedness, including biomedical advanced research and the National Disaster Medical System through the 21st of this year. Section 201, Medicare low volume hospital payment adjustment. Section 202, extend the Medicare dependent hospital program through the end of November. Section 203, extending the Medicare add-on payments for ground ambulance services. And then I'm just going to read you guys numbers so you guys can look up the rest of these. Section 204, 205, 206, 207, 208, 209, 210, 211, 301, 302, 303, 401. The point is here that the reason why Democrats are saying that they need to shut things down is two reasons. Number one, there are Obamacare subsidies that do need to be either re-upped or not re-upped at all. That is a big conversation that does need to happen. Republicans have re-upped those subsidies in the past. This is a issue that does split Republicans, but that does not need to be decided immediately. The other thing the Democrats are fighting for are the Medicaid cuts that were in the one big beautiful bill, but those don't go in until after the midterms. Meanwhile, everything that I just read you right there does end. And here's the other thing, and this is a little bit of a preview from our Scrimshaw conversation. Nothing that Democrats hate the most about this administration is going to end. It does not get furloughed. ICE does not get furloughed. The deportations do not get furloughed. That is deemed essential. And also, it is the Trump administration that makes the definition of what is essential and what is not. And guess what's not going to be deemed essential? A lot. A lot of stuff that Democrats would otherwise like to have staffed. You know, I think we'll get more into it with Scrim, but I keep looking over this so I can give the best version of the Democratic strategy. And so far, the smartest that I can hear on this is that you are banking on Donald Trump wanting to be the big deal maker, that maybe there's some grand bargain that is happy for Republicans and is happy for Democrats on the Obamacare subsidies. So at least the Democrats can come back and not be totally humiliated and just U-turn to sign the exact same deal that they were going to sign otherwise. But if that happens, it will be the Democrats relying on, somewhere between the kindness and the hubris of Donald Trump. Let's remember that when Donald Trump shut down his own government back in 2018, he did it for money for a border wall. And he wanted to make a grand bargain. Pelosi and Schumer did not want to. And what did the Republicans have to settle for? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So that's the best version of this. The most plausible best version of this is that Trump bails the Democrats out. Now ask yourself, if you are a fan of the Democrats, if you want Democrats to continue to win, to do something to move their ailing party, is that the position you want to be in? Relying on Donald Trump to bail you out? Because if it's up to Thune and Johnson, they'll just sit. Hell, there are members of their party that like shutting the government down. Gives them an idea of a stress test of what matters and what doesn't. They will be able to outweigh the Democrats. Ooh, I guarantee it. All right. For New York City mayoral talk and more shutdown talk, let's go ahead to our boy, Evan Scrimshaw. We are in the home stretch of the off year elections, and that means we've got some news. The current sitting mayor of New York City dropping out. Will it matter in the election of the possible Zohran Mamdani? We welcome Evan Scrimshaw back to the show. How you doing, Scrim?
Thanks for having me, man. I always love coming on.
Does this matter?
It is a necessary, but by no means sufficient step to any chance of Andrew Cuomo doing anything in this race. It's necessary in the sense that he needs a two-way race, or he needed Adams and Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa to essentially become nominal candidates, get maybe 3% combined. But Cuomo's problems run deeper than that. And a lot of the analysis about Adams sort of dropping out is just like, you can just add these two numbers together. That's not really how this works. The polls we did get a sort of mini rush of polls, not last week, I believe. I think it was the week before. Fox, Quinnipiac has released recently, and it's like this race really does look over. You've got Zeron at 47% in a Fox News poll, really starting to flirt with 45, I think, on average. Like, that's just not the circumstances in which field consolidation is really going to get you there. Yeah. Because simply, if you're at 47%, no matter what, preferences or sort of pseudo preferences by dropping out, you're never going to run somebody down from that kind of first preference vote. And it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, the theory of the case had been, and when we had Dan Turntine on the show, he was a big proponent of this, that Zoran was not breaking 40. And now it does seem that as the summer wore on, he was more consistently breaking 40%, especially as voters got a sense of the other options. And either they were Republicans, of which is a minority, but is a sizable voting bloc in a close race that Sliwa is going to talk to, or it's Cuomo or Adams. And, as much as everybody wants to talk themselves into Cuomo right now, like, let's understand, for the average person, he's still really damaged goods.
Yeah, like a majority of Sliwa voters still have a negative opinion of Cuomo. I believe that's true of Adams voters. Like, you are looking at a group of people who were looking for somebody who wasn't Andrew Cuomo for a reason, because of the reasons that Andrew Cuomo is no longer the governor of New York, right? And was chased out of the governor's mansion. Like, the problem with this race is that a lot of people are trying to project Zoran's, I think, many weaknesses as a candidate, or at least potential weaknesses, right? The statements he made in 2020, what I still maintain was a terrible answer on, globalize the infantada from before the primary. Like, he is a theoretically weak candidate, or at least a candidate who could be attacked. And the problem is that you have nominated somebody, or sort of the main opposition is somebody who cannot run look at the things you said in the 2020 campaign, because frankly, I don't really think Andrew Cuomo wants to fight about 2020, right?
No.
And like, that's a problem, is that you picked the worst possible person to run against him. And it's causing us all of this discourse about like, well, what about, what about sort of like moderates versus Democratic socialists and all of this stuff in future of the Democratic Party? And it's like, Andrew Cuomo is just really bad at politics.
This only worked if he was able to run Zoran off the road in the primary. And the fact that Cuomo barely tried, the fact that Zoran overperformed in the primary, to me was kind of curtains. And as soon as you looked at the reason why Cuomo is still in this race is because he polled better, I think, largely on name recognition than Adams and Sliwa. He was the first among bad options that people wound up consolidating around, but that doesn't make him any less of a bad candidate, and it doesn't make him run any better of a campaign. And it seems like he's at least trying on a level that he was not during the primary. But if you're going to get this close and you have a week, a month and a week to go, you've got to land some punches on Zoran. Like, you've got to create some kind of divisive issue that puts you in a position of strength versus his position of weakness. I continue to be impressed by the Mamdani campaign, this time not for defining issues themselves, but they've kind of gone into a prevent defense that I think has been fairly effective.
Yeah, and I mean, I think basically from the end of May, when Zoran clearly had some come to Jesus, we can actually win this meeting. Yeah. And that was when he, went to the Times and said, I should have been a bigger proponent of the city of yes. He did the Bulwark podcast. He did Derek Thompson. Like, since that moment when he realized, okay, the pivot I need to do is sort of like abundance, YIMBY, sort of like center-left anti-Cuomo voters. Since that moment, since he got the nomination, banked a bunch of sort of vote blue no matter who people, put himself to, 45-ish, 45% of the electorate. 44-1 on the September average. I'm just looking at it from Adam Carlson did that over the weekend. Like once he sort of banked this 40, mid 40s, mostly stayed out of the limelight for a few weeks, didn't sort of stretch his advantage, didn't really sort of annoy people by trying to stay in the headlines for too long, and recharged, reset, and has just waited for a better attack line than, your rent control department is stopping a homeless single mother, which is like the worst thing in the, like, yes, it's trying something from Cuomo, but like Cuomo was running a very 15 years ago campaign. He's running a very analog campaign in a digital age, and it feels like that.
There is a disease that is beginning to show in the Democratic Party as it has increasingly understood that it's going to have to undergo a generational change of leadership, that there is a generation of candidates that are not used to actually trying. They are used to being propped up by largely a pliant media and having an abundant stream of cash and having a lot of people around them that tell them that they're doing a great job. There's not a lot of awareness, and there's certainly not a lot of hustle. And I think that that's really what you are seeing right now is because I agree with you. I think it part of the reason why I have been so effusive about my praise for the Mamdani campaign is I think he's not an impossible candidate to get into bad situations. And you have seen on their own volition, they have made mistakes. Like you said, the globalized, the intifada answer. But they have minimized those opportunities. They haven't been penalized for them. And Cuomo's unable to do the opposite and say, hey, look at me. I'm doing every podcaster. I'm calling in to the Fan every afternoon to talk Mets and Yankees. Where's Mamdani? Where's Mamdani? Where's Mamdani? He can't do that because he's not used to trying. He's never had to try.
Yeah, he used to put, he faced, two sort of semi-serious primary challenges as governor. He tried for about 6 weeks, put both of those races to bed, or New York governor, not New York mayor, Cynthia Nixon and Zephyr Teachout. But he basically tried for 6 weeks fairly early in those races, did a bit of progressive stuff sort of early enough to kill those campaigns. And, he kind of thought that's all he had to do. And he didn't even take Zoran seriously enough to do, the sort of 6 weeks of thing. But because 10 years ago when he had to do that the first time, he understood that if he didn't put Teachout sort of in the ground politically, right away, a snowball could happen and that could become a wave of discontent he couldn't fix. With Zoran, he didn't worry about him fast enough. He thought that, once Adams left for an independent bid, he was, it was game over. And he never took Zoran seriously. And once the race got started, he couldn't get up to speed fast enough. And I mean, the other thing worth pointing out, Eric Adams is not off the ballot. He's dropped out, but he's still on the ballot. So like, he probably will still get a few percent just because as a sort of protest vote, either from like diehard loyalists or just, I really don't like either Zoran or Cuomo. Hey, Adams isn't even in the race anymore. I'll just vote for him, It's not impossible.
And name recognition with certain communities, especially like the Black community that Cuomo's really going to need to consolidate. All right, let me ask you this. We get a call from, a Westchester number. It's the Cuomo campaign. They're like, we need something. 5 weeks. We got it. What's the issue? What, short of us finding miracle opposition research, we need some kind of issue that we can throw a chainsaw in the bathtub just to shake up this snow globe a little bit and hope that in chaos, the order of Cuomo kind of rises to the top, gets us a little bit closer to where we need to be. Whether or not Sliwa drops out, what do you think it is?
So I think you would need a deeply substantive housing pitch and a more substantive housing pitch, like City of Yes on steroids. Like, just go full market dereg, full YIMBY, full abundance bro on housing. And then you would need a rhetorical F you to Trump, because one of the things that is dogging Cuomo is that theoretically his ability to piss off Trump should be his big thing, right? He spent, all of 2020 trolling Trump. Like, that should be something, that he should be doing a Gavin routine, essentially. I've been here before. Trump hates me. But the problem is that he's taken too many calls
so Gavin could run.
But the problem is he's taken too many calls from Trump. He's like worked with Trump's orbit too much. But it would be a big sort of rhetorical F you to Trump. If I'm mayor, I'm not letting him into the city. I'm not letting the motorcade, destroy New York traffic. Like, something. Yeah. To sort of remind people, I was never the world's biggest Andrew Cuomo fan, but like remind New Yorkers why they did like Andrew Cuomo a decade ago.
So you would need, I still think housing is like, it's not present and it's chasing. Like, yes, it does matter in New York City. It does absolutely matter, but it's not, New York Post front page, at least not multiple days. It's got to be something. I don't know. I mean, I asked you that question and I really don't have an answer, because I genuinely think it would require not only a big differentiating issue from Cuomo, it would require a mistake from the Mamdani campaign. Like, that's where we're at right now. There would have to be some level of self-destruction from the Mamdani campaign, and Cuomo would have to be alive and competent. And nothing I have seen over the last year, as all of these players have been in the field, makes me think that any of that is likely.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, you asked me and I'm like, yeah, do I really feel like that would do it? No, probably not. No. But I also can't think of a better option.
I mean, I guess at this point you could just throw just Hail Marys, just absolute, just promise whatever, and who cares?
Build a football stadium? Build a grass football stadium in one of the 5 in Staten, and get rid of this New Jersey nonsense for the Giants. That's it.
I'm bringing back both the football teams, the Giants and the Jets. They're coming back to the 5 boroughs. Enough of this train, bridge and tunnel nonsense. Yeah, I'll tell you what, that's not actually bad. That's actually good. Just but I mean, you need something.
Yeah, no, and like the fact that that's like, but that's the problem, is that like there's nothing even like remotely interesting. There's nothing sort of like innovative, like whatever you think of the sort of like Zoran FIFA stunt about tickets, which, to be clear, FIFA's going to do precisely F all to make the World Cup more affordable for New Yorkers. It's at least like a kind of interesting point. It picked up on a sort of story of the day, which is World Cup tickets, starting to be released and being exorbitantly expensive. Like, Cuomo's campaign can't even do the basic like blocking and tackling of like find the apolitical story of the day, find a way to put your name in a headline with it, see if you can get a back page or whatever. Like, it's just not good. I mean, what? Cuomo's probably just going to like show up at Yankee Stadium this week and really pretend to be a big fan and hope that somehow works. Yeah, I think it's over. I think it's a wrap. And Sliwa was on television yesterday bragging about how he got offered $10 million to drop out and he can't be bought. So it's like, I don't think that that's happening. I mean, I don't know. I was kind of surprised. The Adams rumor had always been that he was on the first jet to Riyadh as part of the Trump administration's diplomatic team. And then he said after those rumors that he was not dropping out. He's never going to drop out. Cuomo's a scumbag. Next thing you know, he drops out. And I see literally on Twitter, as we recorded this on Tuesday morning, that one of his mistresses is writing a book. And so it's like, wait, did he just drop out because of that? I mean, if he's not getting the diplomatic post, that is, an all-time bag fumble. Although,
yeah, right.
In fairness, like, part of the problem with Donald Trump and his other foibles in recent weeks, we don't need to litigate the kibble of it all. But like, I think the idea that diplomatic post would be long-standing, or that if the Senate decided to muck that up, Trump would really go to the wall for him. Probably not the most reliable promise of a job.
Well, the only thing that made sense there was the Senate changing the rules on that, where they would be able to do it by majority. So it's like you would have to just make sure that you weren't losing 3 Republican votes. But the question is whether or not Trump should be able to whip for Eric Adams on some midnight vote with 17 other diplomatic assignments, right?
Yeah, I mean, if he cares, but do we really think Donald Trump is willing to actually go waste any political capital for somebody who will have already fulfilled their promise to Trump by the time, dropping out for some future consideration of, we'll shove this through the Senate for you. Don't worry there, Eric. I wouldn't take that bet from Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the other thing, is that it's always been kind of curious exactly where the Trump orbit is on it, because you get the sense that the Republican Party is thrilled at the idea of Mayor Mamdani. They love Mayor Mamdani. They are very excited to run against Mayor Mamdani in every district that is less Democratic than New York City, which is most districts when they come to the midterms. But Trump, who's got a lot of rich friends in New York City that all have his number, are very mad. And it appears he's been more engaged than he would otherwise if he were just looking at this from a pure party perspective.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And that's the thing about Trump, is that this admin has really just felt like, what do the people who have my personal cell phone number want me to talk about? Far more than
many
Trump
such
1.0.
cases. Many such cases.
The fact that David Ellison or Larry Ellison, just kind of got roped into this TikTok deal, and maybe Elon's going to own a piece, and maybe Zuckerberg is going to, do it. And Rupert, apparently Trump and Rupert are fine now again.
Well, what's a few lawsuits between friends after all?
I mean, it's just really funny how it's just it's a much, scarier admin in a lot of ways. It's also a much more Trump is doing a lot of things that would be dismissed as the C plot of an Iannucci TV show, it's so much crasser and more and even more so just oh, my rich donors complained about this thing, so we're doing it. It's hilarious. Because, Republicans want to paint every swing district Democrat with scary brown guy. Especially
the ones in and around New York City.
I mean, Mike Lawler is in a tough re-election bid in, I think he has a bunch of Westchester in his district, right?
I mean, I think Lawler's ads right now are, I won salt. I lowered your taxes. Also, look at the communists.
The Democrats, look at Democrats being crazy. That's what they want to run on. They want to paint every, swing district Democrat, every Democrat who wants to flip a seat, especially in the Northeast. A few Philadelphia or Pennsylvania seats are going to have to flip. Tom Keene is theoretically vulnerable in suburban New Jersey. They're going to need, the Republican Party is absolutely thrilled in this. Now, I don't necessarily agree that Zoran is some grand vote mover. I don't think people in Pennsylvania really care who the mayor of New Jersey or mayor of New York is.
New York is, yeah.
But it's at least an argument that, can be put together, which for a party, for the in-party in a midterm, just having a coherent argument is sometimes half the battle, right?
Yes. And it all fits into a 30-second ad, right? You can say crazy thing, crazy, Democratic Socialist position, Mamdani next to a phalanx of Democratic who's who. And that's partially the reason why Hakeem Jeffries is doing this, Schrodinger's endorsement routine because I think he's afraid that his face is going to be the first among equals there.
Okay, then say you're not endorsing. Then say this is a choice for New
But
Yorkers.
I'm with you. Like at a
endorse.
certain point, you have to lead, and he has to make a decision. I can understand why he believes it's a hard decision, but he does have to make a decision.
But dragging this decision to October is the worst of all worlds.
Well, I think he's hoping that as soon as they shut the government down tonight, as we record this, it'll be shut down if you're listening to this on Wednesday, that'll be what people are yelling at him about and not the Mamdani endorsement.
Well, I actually think that the real thing that they're hoping is that when it shuts down, everyone will be yelling at Chuck and not him.
This is your update brought to you by politics.com. That's where you need to go if you want to sign up for 2 bonus episodes each and every week. And it doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't matter how much is on my schedule. You get yours, especially the subscribers. Head on over there right now, essentially for the price of a cup of coffee. You get 2 bonus episodes. Never be without it. Always know that 4 days out of the 7, you're going to have unbroken hot take coverage of the stories that matter most to you. Take politics seriously.com. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth conducted his meeting of generals and military leadership. This was a tremendous norms-breaking gathering that featured a speech not only by Hegseth in front of a gigantic George Patton American flag, but then also Donald Trump. He stressed that this was going to be an era where leadership would have to be held in higher physical condition, that only exacting standards would be the bearing of this war-fighting operation, and that anybody who disagreed should do their duty and resign from the United States Armed Forces. Critics obviously saw this as a grotesque display of ego and useless nonsense. Those who believed that the United States military had become too devoted to process and bloated and woke look at it as, yet another moment where the culture may well be turning. I got a great email from I'll protect the details here, but a serviceman, a Marine. And he pointed out a few things. Number one, that he believed that Hegseth was probably a little bit overshooting what Hegseth believes is the problem here, some of the woke stuff, mostly because he has not served directly in one of the main military branches recently, that he did National Guard, and that may have been more afflicted by the stuff that he is campaigning against right now. But that the fact that it was held in a Marine central location was on purpose to show that the Marines, which have a very small leadership class, is the future of the U.S. military. From my perspective, I have no idea, dude. Again, there's a reason why I want any service people who are listening to this, please email the show. I do want your point of view on this because I don't know what to look for. I don't know what is a problem to you. I see a lot of people like me online, soft-handed, never held a gun types that are on Twitter and talking about how embarrassing or humiliating it is. But I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is to you guys. Maybe it is something that you have desperately wanted for 20 years. I very much continue, even more so now. I welcome emails from service people because I want to hear from you guys on what you think about that. Representative Dave Schweikert of Arizona is running for governor of that state, opting not to take a run at a swing district in Arizona. He will join Andy Biggs, let me get her name right, Karen Taylor Robinson in the primary there, going against Governor Hobbs, a Democratic governor of that state. Let me also use this opportunity to take another unsolicited shot at the Republican Party of Arizona, perennially one of the most incompetent in our incompetent state parties draft. 200,000 people in Arizona, in the Phoenix area, for Charlie Kirk's memorial. 200,000 was the estimated number. And while let's assume that a fair amount of those came from out of state, do you think it was the majority? You know? Yeah, I don't. I think it would be crazy if it was 50-50. You're telling me that a state party, or a state that voted overwhelmingly for President Trump in 2024, barely dragged Carrie Lake over the finish line, that you have 2 blue senators and a blue governor? Come on. Come on, man. What are you doing? And as we get into our conversation with Scrim about the shutdown, let's bring you this result from a New York Times Siena poll leading into that. Here's the question: views on whether the Democrats should or should not shut down the government if their demands are not met. All respondents, 27% believe that they should. 65% believe that they should not. That barely includes a majority of Democrats. 47% of Democrats believe that they should. 43% of Democrats believe that they should not. Independents say that they should not by a margin of 59 to 32%. And Republicans believe that 92% say that they should not. 5% believe that they should. With that, let's go ahead and get to Scram.
I think not so secretly, Hakeem is really hoping that Chuck ends up folding in about 10 days and Chuck gets all the blame and Hakeem just gets to do the, hey, we never folded. We never gave any votes for this thing.
Yeah.
Routine that he did in March. Like,
what do you think? All right, so let's set the over under. Where would you set the over under for a shutdown? What's the line?
So 2.5 weeks, so 17 and a half days.
17 and a half days.
Because this week it's kind of like no one really cares.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift has an album on Friday.
Yeah.
Texas, Florida is on the weekend. I think it's a fairly good NFL slate this week.
Miami FSU this weekend.
Yeah. Like it's a good college slate. It's a good NFL slate. Taylor will blitz all the, non-sports coverage. Next week it'll be kind of interesting. People will talk. There'll be some like half-hearted negotiations. They'll fizzle. We'll be on like shutdown watch for like Thursday. Maybe it can be done by Friday. It's not going to get done. Trump is going to blow it up or something. And then that third week is going to really be when screws get sort of.
Well, but this is the thing. And this is why I think it's one of the worst conceived shutdowns of all time. Because narratively, I don't think that the Democrats have done a great job of getting their ducks in a row. They are assuming one of the worst signs, in my opinion, is that they are in the Trump shutting down the government. It's like, whoa, no. The whole point of you doing this is that you are stopping him. That's the only reason it makes sense for you to shut down the government and not take a clean CR. The only reason is so you can be the reason why the government is not going forward. And if you can't message that, then what the hell are you doing? Because you're not going to get a better deal than a clean CR. The Republicans don't care. Half the Republicans are kind of hot for the fact that the government's shutting down.
I mean, yes, I think the bigger problem for all of this this comes back to the Ezra Klein column from like 3-4 weeks ago, whenever the last time I was on the show.
Yeah.
I can't come up with a better solution. I agree. Not a perfect solution. Maybe not even a good solution. I can't come up with a better one. Because I think if you,
a better one is doing your best job to try to create any kind of wedge issue in the minority. Like, you are working from a terrible position. That is the consequence of electoral impotence. Them's the breaks. You got 2 years to find your issues that you are going to run on in the midterms. Shutting down the government, if your base is not aligned. The reason why Republicans do it is because a portion of their base is aligned on the idea that there is too much government, and if the government shut down, would we even notice? That's partially what they believe. You don't have those people in your coalition if you are the Democratic Party. And so if you're gonna do it, you better own it, and you better explain to everybody exactly why it's happening. And I think the message has been muddled. Their negotiations have been, I think, ridiculous. And now that it's like, oh, well, Trump's shutting it down. It's like, what are you even doing? What's the point here?
I mean, look, if the point that needs to be made is that I do not think Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have been very good at their jobs. I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
Yes.
I think the thing for me is they have at least picked an issue that can cause some Republicans pain because if they concede, right? Like, if eventually Democrats fold, which seems like the likelier outcome, then, at least at the end of the year, healthcare should become more affordable for some significant portion of Americans, and that will be a political pain for swing district Republicans. I do think on some level, Americans do not really understand that the minority party, who controls no branch of government, has an active role to funding the government. I do think that ignorance helps Democrats. And I think them going to the White House for a meeting, Trump then posting a extremely racist AI photo of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer together is, whatever the actual merits of who is deciding to shut down the government, I don't think Trump will be able to hold, from a PR and press narrative standpoint, the idea that this is the evil Democrats and we are just, trying to do everything we can. Like the Vance argument that he made at the post meeting presser outside yesterday, that is the argument that gets Republicans through the shutdown fight. I just don't think Donald Trump has the, ability to be that disciplined.
But I don't think that's he's not going to play this game. He's going to find something else to dance the attention toward. And it's going to be an issue that, it's probably going to be a 50-50 issue that 50% of the country is going to be mad about. And then meanwhile, the Democrats are going to suffer the consequences because a bunch of people are going to get fired. And the longer this goes, the more you tick toward executive control that nobody in the Democratic Party wants the Trump administration to have, which is the other side of this. So I tend to believe that the Democrats, and Chuck Schumer specifically, are going to be the dog that caught the car on this. They're going to shut it down and probably sign the same deal that was on the table for the last week and a half before 10 days. I would take the under in the 17 and a half.
I definitely don't think they can. I definitely don't think they can do it in 10 days. They can't do it. They can't do it before the end of next week. So that would be like, I think if you're right and your theory of the case is right and Democrats are going to be the losers of the shutdown, I think they hold out through the weekend of the 11th, 12th. And then when, 13th, 14th, 15th, that's when the deal lands, I think. Because I think if Schumer really lasts one weekend before caving, I do think there's like a legitimate push for his job. And I mean,
that's the only reason why he's doing it in the first place, right? Is because he's trying to stave off a challenge for his job.
Right. And so I don't think like a performative 6-day shutdown does anything to stop the vultures in both the Senate caucus and the pressure from the outside groups. I think he's got to take that. I think he's got to take that at least 12 days to survive that.
I guess really that's the question. The question is, it's like, all right, so now all of a sudden you see a federal government reshaping. What does that do to the Democratic hold? What does that do to the outside groups? What does that do to the senators inside of it? Because that's the one thing that we don't know is, aside from a few people that are very, very vocal, what is that constitution inside Senate Democrats? Like, I've heard interviews with Republicans who have been on the fence that it was even going to happen, which indicated that this was not quite a fully united Democratic slate to shut down.
Yeah, and I think the thing about the Democratic Party is that people like to talk about the party divide as like a left-right thing. It's not so much a left-right thing, it's an age thing, right?
Yeah.
Ossoff, you'd think he should be, he'd be against this, right? Younger, up for election next year. He's seemingly on board with the with the shutdown plan. It's a lot of the older senators who were the ones who in March were the votes that Schumer gave. Basically, it was basically Schumer, a bunch of old retirees, and Brian Schatz, who's going to be the new number 2, and Dick Durbin retires, who gave him the votes to avoid a shutdown in March.
Yeah.
Those are the people who are gonna be there to watch. It's gonna be your Janine Shaheens. Like, that's the sort of caucus that might revolt on this, because frankly, they don't have that sort of visceral hatred of Republicans and that sort of willingness to fight that a lot of the sort of more recent members of the Democratic coalition, whether from the sort of more moderate center or the, what passes for left of the Democratic Party has. Like, I don't think Slotkin, who you'd think would be sort of a classic example to sort of want a deal, I don't think she's going to be rushing for a deal. I think Gary Peters, older, retiring, and doesn't really need it anymore, would be much more likely to be the one looking for it. And I think that says a lot about the divide in the Democratic Senate caucus.
Yeah. The other reason that I think I'm kind of befuddled by this strategy is that everything that Democrats point to about hating the Trump administration is still going to happen. Like, we're still going to get ICE deportations. We're still going to get all the things that they don't like. And so if there is this assumption by, the outside groups or whatever, that they're not going to get, federal workers fired, national parks closed, and all the things you don't like about the Trump administration continue to roll on unabated. Like, I don't see how that ages well on the Democratic side. Take away the idea of what the Republicans are going to do. Just among Democratic viewers of this, I don't think it's going to look like it might look in their heads to them.
Yes, but I also think, this just really comes back to like losing elections is bad.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, that is really that is really the answer. Like, we like to think there are options, right? We like to think that there are solutions to problems. And it's like, the solution was vote for Kamala Harris 10 months ago. The solution was
the solution is this is your medicine. You lost 3 branches of government. You don't have any lever to stop stuff. You don't have any lever to muck stuff up. The reason why, I've been going on and on and on, is you have to find an issue. You have to find a wedge issue for which you can be, even if they're just messaging bills to throw out there to try to just take headlines of some sort. You've got to find something that your opposition doesn't like. And right now, the closest they found to it is Epstein, of all issues. And it's like, you're not really going to be the government transparency people when it doesn't hurt Trump. You don't actually care about Epstein because you haven't cared about Epstein. So there's no connection to a natural constituency that's really going to be excited by this. There's no connection to people except the most online that are already going to be voting for you no matter what, because they despise Donald Trump. So it's like, where is the thing? What is the issue? Because that's all you have. You have the ability to siphon headlines when you are in this position.
Yeah, and the problem for Democrats is that healthcare should be the answer, and it, I think, will be the answer over the course of this Congress, or this presidency, I should say, and the next two Congresses. But like most of the big healthcare cuts are coming, they backloaded them
after the midterms. Yeah,
exactly. And so that'll be that healthcare will once again dominate the Democratic primary. Can't wait to relive 2020 on that front again. But it's going to be really hard to make people care about this stuff, especially when there has been this sort of like, oh, Republicans are going to ruin healthcare. Republicans are going to ruin healthcare. We've been hearing it for, 8 years now. I think people have sort of potentially tuned out that argument because it's never really happened. Now, it hasn't happened because Democrats have stopped it from happening. But it becomes this thing where, like, on some level, I also do wonder if part of the problem for Democrats is that they have been sort of fatalistic in their messaging about, what losing and what Trump would do. Yeah. The first time around, Trump wasn't that bad, partially because there were still enough congressional Republicans to stop him, and partially because, the economy was good, so Trump didn't really have to do any of this stuff, and he didn't have a sort of like enemies list because 2020
he's building up his enemies list based on what happened in the first term.
But a lot of the people on the enemies list are from 2020 and beyond, right? It's a lot of feeling betrayed by the election.
I mean, I don't know. Comey and Brennan would probably beg to differ.
They are some of the true OGs, but there are just a lot of. This is a very different administration, and like on some level, I do wonder if the secret answer for Democrats is we just have to let them screw this. Like we have to let people.
Very Carvillian of you.
I don't say this with any pleasure, and I don't think that's a particularly moral argument, but I do think tactically, like at some point they keep voting for this. At some point the voters have the right to get what they voted for.
It's like, look, you not only have to define issues that are very hard to define when Donald Trump is on the other side of them, because he is going to either make it a very ugly situation or he's going to try to define it in the best look possible for him. And he pretty much alternates between the two, but he would rather foul tip it than give you the ability for a narrative win. So it's hard to spin things exactly how you want it when Donald Trump is on the other side of the fence. The only thing you have are issues that even Trump is sensitive to the fact that it splits his coalition. And I'm shocked they haven't hit him harder on IVF. That was something that Trump had to moderate on. I will reiterate it for the 50,000th time. I don't know why they're not making the present issues with women's reproductive rights more of a present focused issue of in red states, healthcare to women that would include terminating a pregnancy for women who want babies but are in dangerous pregnancies. These are issues that are very present that Republicans do not want to talk about. And every time that you move the needle closer to that, you are making them uncomfortable. It is, I don't know. I mean, this to me just shows you that the Democratic Party is a party without messages and a party without leaders right now. Like, because they cannot agree on what to go forward on, and their leaders are Jeffries and Schumer for all intents and purposes. And when that's your front line, Jesus.
I mean, it doesn't. I think it also doesn't help that the two most prominent Democrats in America right now occupy, not just the same city, the same borough of the same city.
Yeah.
Which is, one of, if not the bluest city in America. I think Philadelphia is slightly bluer now. But like, I think if you had a more prominent, say, Texas Democrat in the leadership, as opposed to a leadership of, a Californian. Is Catherine Clark's from Massachusetts, I think? Like, it's a very blue state Democratic leadership in a lot of ways. Dick Durbin from Illinois, obviously.
Yeah.
You do run into this thing where it's really very grounded in blue state lived experience, quote unquote. And I do think that's really not helping. sort of figure out the sort of future direction. And I think the fact that there aren't enough people who are hearing the stories of, to use the example you used, sort of female healthcare in red states, but specifically abortion, but also sort of
just the complications that these bills, that these laws have made. Like, this is just found. This is like,
there are horror stories every day, and they aren't elevating them at all.
I don't understand it. I honestly don't. And then a part of the reason why they don't want to do it is because if you fight on that, it is looked at as capitulating on fighting for a full, reconstitution of Roe. And I don't believe the Democratic Party has a moral authority on that right now. Like, when I don't think they have a path to 60 votes, and when they had a majority, if you're like, oh, well, they could just eliminate the filibuster and codify it, it's like, well, okay, cool. And then they're going to lose that slim majority the next time they have it, and it's going to be flipped again. But even then, they had it. In fact, they had both. They had 60 votes and didn't do it, and they had a majority where they could eliminate the filibuster after Roe was overturned, and they didn't do it. So it's like, we can live in this fantasy world where the voter's an idiot and is going to say, no, this time Lucy will keep the football there. But I don't think they have the moral authority, and I don't think that they have any choice but to say, what is our plan on women's health post-Roe? Let's rebuild. Like we can't go back to tomorrow. A DeLorean is not a voting strategy.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's the rudderlessness feels more and more apparent when you try and, when you look back at not just what's being talked about in DC, but when you look at the theoretical slate of options, it does look, does look like there's more opportunities. I mean, obviously Ezra Klein did his, monthly contractual obligation of getting everybody on Twitter mad at him this, in the last 10 days, both by saying Democrats need to run.
I wonder how much of the Republican listeners understand this, that this is just like a new rite of passage where Ezra Klein dutifully puts his well-coiffed beard into the stocks and just lets progressive Twitter throw tomatoes at him.
It's the funniest thing. And so I actually read about this and I'm publishing it on Friday. I find Ezra Klein and Matt Iglesias to be a fascinating sort of feature of politics at this point. Not because I particularly care what either of them have to say, but because they are generalists. Yeah. At the time during a death of generalist writing, right? They are much more, I'm sure they would think of themselves in conversation with sort of like haughty names of sort of politics and theory, right? They are much more in conversation with Tim Kalishaw and Woody Page. Generalist sports columnists. Yeah. At, Kalishaw was in Dallas, Woody Page was in Denver. Yeah. Who sort of dipped in and out of whatever they wanted. If the football team did something interesting, they'd be there. But it's not like it's not like Woody Page was at every Broncos practice. Yeah. Kalishaw, would dip into the Mavs or dip into the Texas Rangers or something, or the Stars, when things happened, but he wasn't. By and large, he was talking about the Cowboys. Yeah. Right. But that was sort of the pinnacle of that sort of thing. You were a beat writer and then you hope to get that job. Bob Ryan up in Boston was, probably the classic example. Yeah. And that's what they are. That's what they are in a lineage of. But at a time when generalist writing is so much less valued because you can find specialists. You can find people because Ezra and Iglesias are trying to answer two very distinct questions. What should Democrats do for the good of the country? Right. What policy solutions are there? But also, how should Democrats win elections? And those are two very distinct questions. And arguably, there are better people to explain the policy implications of what Democrats should do. And there are people who are better equipped to answer the question of how do you win elections? Yeah. But they're trying to do both and get screamed at. I am so glad that you have brought this back to journalism. So I think the other problem is that that role used to be
one of several voices that in a 7-day newspaper schedule would kind of in conversation with each other, sometimes directly, others indirectly, but you would have a hardened Democratic columnist, a hardened Republican columnist, and then a few people that were just sort of, out there, right? We've kind of stripped away the idea that there's any one outlet that should be representative. Our top outlets, newspaper-wise, like the New York Times and the Washington Post, long ago have replaced their Republican voices with never Trump voices, which essentially just kind of agrees with the vast majority of points that the Democratic columnist is going to make, except with a little bit of throat clearing on, well, I used to Reagan, blah, 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 right? Now you have somebody like Ezra Klein that I think in a different world should be in a dialogue with like a Ben Shapiro, like that they should be going back and forth on like, these are the ideas from the same outlet. And this should be more of that dialogue. But we've straddled so far that now the biggest fights that he naturally gets into are people in his own party, where he has to like do this meeting of the minds with Ta-Nehisi Coates or whatever, and everybody treats it like it's some gigantic big prize fight when it's just the 50,000th example of progressives and moderates. Boy, do they not like each other online.
Yeah, and like I've seen most of that conversation. It's like it's fine, it's good. It's two people utterly talking past each other in sequence, right?
Of course.
Partially because they have done this, both I think the two of them specifically, and just like the people in making Ezra's argument and the people making Coates' argument have just done this before. There is no new ground to be trodden on. Like, should Democrats moderate to win elections? Yeah, but how do you reassure minority communities that you won't throw them completely under the bus? Bunch of throat clearing, because again, those are like not the same, like, because there's no real way to do one without the other, and it's just people refusing to say, I don't really care if trans Americans or Black Americans or whatever are pissed at me. I want to win more racist whites. Like, nobody wants to say that explicitly, but that is, de facto what Ezra Klein is arguing. But he doesn't want to argue that in so many terms. So it's this, again, talking past each other in sequence. It's not a conversation.
It's also it's throwing blueprints at each other. It's like, okay, sure. Generally, you should do a general thing and you should have general principles. At the end of the day, I mean, the reason why we don't do a lot of that on this show is because it's like, show me the race, show me the candidates, show me the electorate. That determines how I think that you should run a race and how you should win a race.
Well, and the other thing is the one time Klein got specific, he named 3 states where Democrats should consider running a pro-life candidate, and then immediately got shot down for, well, actually, pro-choice referenda have won in those states. And it's like, well, that's why no one ever gets specific, because that's harder to do. It's harder to find a specific race where you could, say, yeah, taking, let's just say, less trans-friendly positions would win. Maybe it would have won Bob Casey an election, maybe. But like the idea that Sherrod or John Tester or whoever was really, one legislative, one Senate vote or one like strongly worded press release away from overturning a 3.5 point margin in Ohio and whatever, I think high single digits Tester lost by. Like it's laughable. It's ludicrous.
No, I mean, and it also ignores the larger issues there, that this is not going to be, these candidates are not going to win because you've won an argument between progressives and moderates that were always voting for Democrats. Like you are talking past each other and in continual ignorance of where independents went and why independents went the way that they went. And so it's like, I don't know. I understand the argument from the Kleins and Iglesias of the world to say, I mean, ultimately, their biggest problem is that what they, I think, would like to say is the progressive left has driven us so far off the cliff that independents don't even look at us anymore. So we would like for them to look at us, but they don't have everything gets bogged down in issues. And it's like, okay, well then hammer out a platform right now that everybody's got to run on. And it's like, in reality, again, it's about each candidate. It's about each race. It's about the things that they are going to talk to and about, and the voters that they need to convince.
Yeah. And the real answer is, of course, is that we are, 13 months out from the midterms right now as we're talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of things are going to happen in the next 13 months. And a strategy that might make complete sense on paper right now might make no sense in 13 months. All of this sort of teeth gnashing about, oh, Democrats are so unpopular might look like the funniest thing ever in 13 months. If the economy weakens, if there's a, recession at the end of this year, beginning of next year, if Trump's more unpopular, if all of this sort of like quote unquote distraction stuff, your, attacks on free speech, all of the, if the National Guard gets sent into some blue city and causes more chaos and havoc, and Democrats can sort of cement a narrative that Trump is distracting from a bad economy with nonsense and chaos if he tries to go after Seth Meyers or Jimmy Fallon, and that narrative can cement, we could be looking at a blue wave, not even like a huge blue wave, but like a significant Democratic environment.
It is not outside the realm of possibility 13 months
almost
out.
by accident. Yeah. Like I'm not even saying because of Democratic strength or because of Democrats figuring anything out. You could just see a situation where, Trump's approval is still really bad. And if that tips, to 39 on average or whatever, and the economy's bad and Republicans feel demoralized and Trump, kind of doesn't really care about the midterms because frankly, do we really think Trump cares about the good of the Republican Party?
I mean, he's pushing for a convention, which I'm happy about because it gives me something to do.
I mean, that will be a godsend to the content world in the summer because most of the competitive primaries will be done. He needs to do it in August because at least July will be spent arguing about this Michigan primary.
Yeah.
So do it in August
because once
Michigan's in the rearview mirror, there's just going to be nothing for anybody to argue about. And I could use a great 10 days of pre, during, and post coverage of the Republican convention arguing whether or not this helps or hurts random Republicans. That'll be a great 10 days on Twitter.
Oh yeah. All right. New Jersey. There's a little bit of bedwetting happening. Some little a Ciccarelli buzz based on the early returns, at least as of now. Do you buy any of it?
I mean, I buy it'll be close. I think people still have this idea that New Jersey is the state it was in the, pre-Biden days, right? It only voted for Harris by 5.5. It's basically as partisanly Democratic as Virginia at this point, which is a crazy sentence to say out loud. Yeah. I think some of the polling that has Ciccarelli in a really close race are over-indexing on 2021 electorates and or a lot of people who look like they would be voting for Democrat if they weren't undecided. Yeah. I think 62% of people who were undecided in the Emerson poll that caused a lot of bedwetting last week were Harris voters. It kind of seems like the electorate's a bit too friendly. Plenty of the Virginia polls have explicitly had environments that are too friendly. They're just saying we're using the 2021 electorate again.
Yeah.
And I think there is an incentive for pollsters that are usually very bad at who sort of have built in pro-Republican biases to solve presidential years and then just keep the same methods in non-presidential years. People are incentivized to miss low on Democrats because if you miss low on Republicans, it's a capital C crisis for polling. But it's hard to win 3 terms in a row as a Democratic governor. In New Jersey, I think the last time it happened was 1929. So the last time it happened, Democrats, it was 5 weeks after the stock market crash and the beginning of the Depression. Not exactly a robust history of Democrats.
So you are more bullish on the possibility of a Ciccarelli upset than a Earl Sears upset in Virginia.
Well, I mean, yes, but that's because the rapture actually happening next week because they've revised the estimate has a better chance of Republicans winning Virginia.
Yeah.
I think Ciccarelli will. I think Ciccarelli has a decent chance to get to 48%.
And then you're in the neighborhood. You know,
yeah,
you're
but
knocking on the door.
I think there's a chance it's closer than a lot of Democrats want. I think the chances he could really get to 49 and a half and truly get to a win number are pretty low. I don't remember which of the various predicted knockoffs had it around 80-20, and I think that's probably a fair price.
Yeah. But although I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fine estimation of where the stats are right now, but I would need a second nonpartisan poll to show me something close to a tie for me to really start to adjust that. And I would need that tie to not be 43-43. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
All right. Rapid fire. Any NFL takes? After week 4.
So it's just turned out that Aaron Rodgers has the Steelers black magic, and you guys are apparently winning the AFC North. Because the Ravens are a hospital word.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the Ravens have a insane opening schedule, and their defense might actually be bad.
Well, because half of their defense is on IR.
Yeah. So that might be kind of just a cursed season for them. I don't think that anything that involves a Steelers-Ravens game is going to be anything other than a rock fight that ends, 16-19. So who knows? I believe the Ravens will be able to mount some kind of comeback unless, Lamar's injury is terrible or like Derrick Henry. I'm subscribed to the idea that Derrick Henry has probably been injured enough that a normal human would not have suited up, and instead they just understand that they can stand him in the back and not run him for most of the game, and it still affects the defense enough that it's worth it. That being said, Aaron Rodgers is basically what I thought he was going to be at the beginning of the season, which is just a better version of the quarterbacks that they've had. Not necessarily a total game changer, but it's like, we still suck between the 30-yard lines, and we will have way too many 3-and-outs that string themselves together. But with Aaron Rodgers and the tight end fetish offense, we are pretty deadly inside the red zone, which is something that we haven't had in a long time. And so now if you have a turnover-prone defense and we can get into the 20-yard line, like we can finish on a level that the Steelers have not been able to over the last 5 years. And so that's really the only difference. The big difference, at least right now, is that Aaron Rodgers still has to get the ball out. He still doesn't like to get hit. Where, the offensive line is evolving. If that gets better, they might actually be a good team. But right now, they're the same Steelers, but with an 80% red zone offense, where before I think we were like 20%.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's just it's pretty clear to me that you guys are like probably good enough to be interesting, which is more than I was confident of before the year.
Yes.
My really unfortunate hottest opinion, like I don't want to talk about the Packers. It's great. We have Micah. That was super fun. Hate what happened.
80-point tie. 80-point tie. That's
just simply unacceptable. My real strong opinion is that I think Drake May might be a dude. He might be really good, and I kind of hate it. But
I do too.
I think they found another guy. Because
I do too. Well, I'm not willing to go that far. He's going to have to actually win a game against somebody, not the Carolina Panthers or the Miami Dolphins, for me to actually put him there.
I mean, I think Buffalo's in. I am looking at taking the Patriots plus the points this week against the Bills on Sunday night.
What's the spread?
8.5 when I looked yesterday. I'm just pulling up your schedule, by the way. Cleveland, Cincy, Indianapolis, the Chargers, Green Bay in the middle of that as well. You guys could be a frighteningly good record.
Yeah, and we have our bye this week, right? Week 5 bye, which is great because we're injured.
You guys, you could be like 7-2.
Would not be shocking to me. Would not be shocking.
It's,
I mean, that's the thing. Our schedule does not look as tough. The back half of the schedule still is pretty frightening, but the front half looks, decent.
Well, getting Burrow with that, getting Cincy without Burrow is good for you.
But I'm not worried about Burrow. We've actually played really, really well against Burrow in his career. So, and theoretically, our secondary is built for it when we have all of our cornerbacks healthy, which has happened for about 5 minutes of this season.
Can I promote my stuff?
Please do.
Political writing, Scrimshaw, unscripted.substack.com. Sports content will be coming soon. I had to help coup a political leader in Ontario, so that's kind of delayed the sports plans, but hoping to get that up by the next time I'm on the pod, probably. Twitter, @Scrimshaw. I'm going to be sweating the Blue Jays because I've somehow managed to care about baseball for the first time in a decade. So that'll be,
Good luck on that.
A fun playoff run.
Good luck on that, Mr. Scrimshaw. Thank you so much. And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics, written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. You can send me an email, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Find, follow, and share clips of the show. Justin R. Young on TikTok, Justin R. Young on Instagram, Justin R. Young on X, Justin R. Young on Sora too. Follow me. And on YouTube, it's Politics. You can get full video of the show right there. Hit me off with a one-time donation, paypal.me/payjury, Justin-Young-20. Cash App is PX3Cash. And you can send me anything you'd like in the mail. Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas, 78715. Of course, you can only get our bonus content at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Paying members get 2 bonus episodes each and every week, either $3 a week or $99 for the entire year. That's 150 episodes of the show for under $100. But if you want your name read at the end of the show, the only place to do it is the foundational tier. These are the guys that make this show go. All right? When it all comes down to it, the folks who have signed up at this level, I owe my career to, and it is my honor to shout you out every single episode. Sonny Black, L3PO, Peepaw, Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Sarah Jeannie, Jeremy, Pro Idiot, Chiller Tomatoes, oh yeah, it's Adam, Neil, AB Puppy, Just Another Pilot, Dr. Whiskey, Michael, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Will, The Borge, B, Matthew, Matt, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Andrew, Phil, Edison, Devon, Paul, A Dog Named Checkers, Jerry, Trucker, John, Berkeley, Steven, and Zombie Doc. And there's one name that I've had people tell me they know when I don't say that Gloria is Gloria Young, my mom. And she is indeed still a foundational member. And it is my honor to announce to you right now, for Listener Appreciation Month, her first appearance on the show in over a year happens this Friday. And there's a little backstory here. You guys are going to want to hear it. My mom was none too pleased with me for many, many, many months. It took a lot of behind the scenes wrangling for me to get my mom back on the show. I know how much she means to you, the audience. And so the Gloria Young episode for Listener Appreciation Month is this Friday. But until then, this is your old pal, Justin Robert Young, saying some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and still more discuss politics. But this is the only show that dares discuss all three.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show Audio.